The crack of gunfire echoed across the valley as Logan Harker pressed his weathered body against the cold stone. Blood seeped through his shirt where the bullet had grazed his shoulder, but he paid it no mind. Below him lay the bodies of two rustlers who'd made the mistake of thinking his cattle were easy pickings. They'd been wrong, dead wrong. Logan ejected the spent cartridge from his Winchester 73, the brass shell glinting in the late afternoon sun as it tumbled to the rocky ground. At 40, his reflexes weren't what they'd been during the war, but his aim remained deadly true. His breath came steady as he surveyed the valley that stretched before him. His valley, his land, his burden. Medicine Falls, Wyoming, 1882. A land still wild, still untamed, where a man's worth was measured by what he could protect. Logan's 300 head of cattle grazed the lush grasslands below, unaware of the blood spilled in their defense. Behind him stood the ranch house his father had built with his own two hands, where Logan had buried both his wife Sarah and their son Thomas after the fever took them 5 years ago. "This land is all I got left of them," he muttered to the wind, reloading his rifle with practiced precision. "And nobody's taking it from me, not without dying first." Victor Caldwell adjusted his silk tie as he studied the map spread across the mayor's desk. His manicured fingernails traced the proposed railway line, a line that ran straight through Logan Harker's property. "I assure you, Mayor Jenkins, Western Union pays handsomely for cooperation." Caldwell's voice carried the polished edge of Eastern money. At 50, his hair had gone silver, but his eyes remained cold and calculating. "The future of Medicine Falls depends on this railway." The mayor, a portly man with sweat perpetually beading on his brow, nodded eagerly. "Most folks understand progress, Mr. Caldwell. But Harker, he's different, stubborn as the mountains themselves." Caldwell's thin smile never reached his eyes. "Every man has his price." "Not Harker," the mayor replied, shaking his head. "That land's where his family's buried. He'd sooner die than sell." "Then perhaps," Caldwell said quietly, folding the map with deliberate care, "we should accommodate that preference." Logan tied his bay stallion to the hitching post outside Jacob Miller's blacksmith shop. The rhythmic clang of hammer on anvil rang out from within, a sound as familiar to Logan as his own heartbeat. He ducked through the low doorway into the heat and smoke of the forge. "Those shoes for thunder ready yet?" Logan called over the noise. Jacob Miller looked up, his massive forearms glistening with sweat, his beard singed from years at the forge. The two men could not have looked more different. Logan lean and weathered from years under the open sky, Jacob broad and solid as the iron he shaped. Once they'd faced each other across battle lines at Gettysburg, northern blue against southern gray. Now they shared something deeper than the old divisions, respect forged in the crucible of survival. "Just cooling," Jacob answered, gesturing to four perfectly shaped horseshoes. "Heard you had trouble up at the North Ridge. Rustlers again?" Logan's jaw tightened. "Two less now." Jacob nodded, understanding the unspoken meaning. "Town's buzzing about the railroad men. They're buying up every parcel they can." "Let them buzz," Logan said flatly. "My land's not for sale." The blacksmith's eyes narrowed as he lowered his voice. "It ain't just about buying anymore, Logan. Caldwell's brought in men from Cheyenne, gun hands." Before Logan could respond, the shop door swung open. Mayor Jenkins stood there, his round face flushed from the short walk down Main Street. "Harker, we need to talk," he announced, trying to sound authoritative, despite his labored breathing. "The town council met this morning. This railway is Medicine Falls' only chance. Without it, we'll dry up while Prosperity Ridge gets all the business." Logan turned slowly, fixing the mayor with a stare that had made braver men step back. "That's mighty unfortunate, Mayor. But my answer's still no." The mayor's face reddened further. "Be reasonable, man. You're holding back the entire town. If you don't sell, there'll be consequences. Folks are already talking. You'll be a pariah." Wouldn't be the first time, Logan replied coldly, laying silver coins on Jacob's workbench to pay for the horseshoes. Good day, Mayor. As Logan stepped back into the harsh sunlight, he felt the stares from the boardwalk across the street. Where once there had been neighborly nods, now there were only suspicious glances and hushed whispers. He'd fought for 4 bloody years in a war that had torn the nation apart, but it seemed his biggest battle was yet to come. Catherine Reynolds, Kate to the few she considered friends, watched Logan ride out of town from the window of the general store. At 32, widowed for 3 years since her husband's mining accident, she learned that survival in these parts required more than just grit. It required allies. "You're a fool if you side with Harker," whispered Mrs. Peterson, the shopkeeper's wife, as she measured coffee beans. "The railway means prosperity." Kate's green eyes flashed. "My 40 acres borders his ranch, Mrs. Peterson. If Harker falls, I'm next. And I didn't bury my Thomas in that ground to hand it over to Eastern vultures." 20 minutes later, Kate's dappled mare galloped alongside Logan's stallion on the trail back to his ranch. The sun beat down mercilessly on the dry earth, dust clouds rising with each hoofbeat. "They're recruiting gunmen," she called over the thunder of hooves. 6 hired guns arrived on yesterday's stage. I recognized 2 from the Silver Creek incident last year. Killers, not just muscle. Logan reined in his horse, Kate following suit. "How long?" 3 days, maybe less, she answered, wiping dust from her sun-browned face. "Caldwell's not a patient man." Logan nodded toward the horizon. "Ride with me to the ridge. There's something you should see." The vista from the ridge took Kate's breath away. The entire valley spread before them, bathed in golden afternoon light. Harker's cattle dotted the landscape like dark stars against the green sea of grass. "My father died claiming this land during the Homestead Rush," Logan said quietly. "My boy is buried under that oak beside the creek, my Sarah next to him." His voice, normally hard as iron, softened with the memory. "This isn't about stubbornness, Kate. This is about keeping a promise." Kate understood all too well. Her own small ranch had been her husband's dream, a dream cut short by a cave-in at the Prosperity Ridge mine. She opened her mouth to respond when movement in the valley caught her eye. "Logan," she warned, pointing. 5 riders approached the ranch house, dust billowing behind them. Even from this distance, the sun glinting off their weapons was unmistakable. Logan's face hardened as he swung back onto his stallion. "Get to your place. Bar the doors." "Like hell," Kate replied, checking the revolver at her hip. "My fight's coming next. Might as well start it now." By the time Logan and Kate reached the ranch house, the riders were already dismounting. Their leader, a tall man with a scar running from eye to chin, stepped forward. "Mr. Harker," he called, his voice carrying the nasal twang of Texas. "Name's Pike. Mr. Caldwell sends his regards and a message." Logan dismounted slowly, keeping his rifle in hand. "I don't recall inviting guests, Pike." The scarred man smiled, revealing a gold tooth. "We ain't exactly guests. More like harbingers." He gestured broadly. "Nice spread you got here. Would be a shame if something happened to it." "State your business and move on," Logan growled. Pike's smile vanished. "Business is simple. You got 3 days to clear out. After that, we burn it to the ground, starting with that barn full of fine horseflesh." Logan's rifle came up in one fluid motion, trained directly at Pike's chest. "You've delivered your message. Now get off my land before you join those rustlers I put down this morning." For a tense moment, it seemed Pike might draw. His hand hovered near his holster, eyes calculating the odds. 5 guns against 2. But something in Logan's steady gaze gave him pause. This wasn't some scared homesteader. This was a man who'd stared death in the face and hadn't blinked. 3 days, Harker," Pike finally said, remounting his horse. "Then we come back with enough men to turn this place into a memory." As the riders disappeared in a cloud of dust, Kate turned to Logan. What now? Logan checked his rifle, his face grim but resolute. Now we prepare for war. The next morning dawned clear and cold. Logan stood on his porch, coffee cup steaming in the crisp air, watching the sun crest the eastern mountains. He'd slept little, his mind filled with battle plans and memories of another war fought long ago. The crunch of wagon wheels on the gravel path drew his attention. Jacob Miller sat at the reins, his wagon loaded with supplies. Behind him rode two young cowboys from Kate's ranch. Figured you could use some help fortifying this place, Jacob called as he pulled the team to a halt. Logan's weathered face broke into a rare smile. Blacksmith, gunsmith, and now military engineer? You're a man of many talents, Jacob. Learned a thing or two building breastworks outside Richmond, Jacob replied, jumping down from the wagon. These boys know how to handle themselves, too. The younger of the two cowboys, barely 20 with a shock of red hair, nodded eagerly. Miss Reynolds says we're making a stand, sir. We're with you. By midday, the ranch had begun its transformation into a fortress. Firing positions reinforced with sandbags overlooked every approach. Barrels of water stood ready in case of fire. Inside the barn, Logan inspected his arsenal. The Winchester 73, a shotgun for close work, and two Colt 45 peacemakers, their ivory grips worn smooth from years of use. This one's seen action before, Jacob observed, picking up the Winchester. Logan nodded. Carried it through the Shenandoah. Never failed me. He pulled a wooden crate from beneath his bed, the brass hasps gleaming as he unlocked it. Inside lay ammunition, gun oil, and a Confederate officer's saber, its blade still razor sharp. Didn't know you kept that, Jacob said quietly. Logan ran a calloused finger along the blade's edge. Some things a man doesn't leave behind. Their conversation was interrupted by the pounding of hooves. Through the window, Logan saw Kate galloping toward the ranch, her face urgent. Behind her rode two figures on painted ponies, Shoshone warriors, their long hair flowing behind them. Trouble? Jacob asked, reaching for his rifle. Logan shook his head. Maybe not. Outside, Kate dismounted quickly. Logan, this is Swiftfoot and his brother Blackhawk. They have information. The taller of the two warriors stepped forward, his face impassive but his eyes sharp with intelligence. The railroad men, he said in perfect English, they search for more than a path for their iron horse. Logan frowned. What do you mean? Swiftfoot's gaze was steady. They found yellow metal in the caves beneath your valley. Much yellow metal. This is why they want your land, and why they will kill for it. The revelation hit Logan like a physical blow. Gold. Of course. The railway was just a pretense, a way to seize the land legally before anyone discovered what lay beneath. How do you know this? He demanded. My people have watched. 2 moons ago, men came with digging tools. They entered the cave at the valley's end, took samples, spoke of riches. Blackhawk, silent until now, spoke up. The iron road will cut through our sacred grounds as well. We have come to fight beside you, Harker. Your enemies are our enemies. Logan studied the warriors' faces, seeing the determination there. In that moment, the battle lines shifted in his mind. This wasn't just about his ranch anymore. It was about stopping men who would destroy anything, anyone, for profit. We make our stand here, Logan decided, together. The attack came at dusk 2 days later. Logan had positioned his defenders carefully. Jacob and the red-headed cowboy in the barn loft, with clear sight lines to the main approach. Kate and the second cowboy in the root cellar with its reinforced walls and narrow firing ports. The Shoshone warriors hidden in the rocks overlooking the eastern slope. Logan himself waited on the porch, a Winchester in his hands and the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The first sign was the dust cloud rising from the south road. Then came the sound. 12 riders at least, moving fast. "Steady," Logan called out. "Let them come to us." The riders spread out as they approached, trying to surround the ranch house. Pike led them, his scarred face twisted in a cruel smile. At his signal, they opened fire, bullets splintering wood and shattering windows. Logan remained motionless, counting. When the first riders paused to reload, he gave a sharp whistle. The response was immediate. Coordinated rifle fire erupted from every defensive position. 3 attackers fell in the first volley, their horses scattering in panic. Pike dove for cover behind a water trough, cursing as bullets kicked up dirt around him. "Burn them out!" he shouted. One of his men produced a flaming torch, spurring his horse toward the barn. Swiftfoot's arrow took him through the throat before he'd covered half the distance. The torch fell harmlessly to the ground as the man tumbled from his saddle. For 20 minutes, the air filled with gun smoke and the thunder of firearms. Logan moved from position to position, directing fire, plugging gaps in their defense. A bullet grazed his arm, another tore through his hat, but he kept moving, kept fighting. When it ended, the attackers retreated, leaving 4 dead behind. One wounded man lay moaning by the corral fence. Logan approached him cautiously, rifle ready. "Talk," he commanded, kneeling beside the injured gunman. "Who else is Caldwell bringing in?" The man coughed, blood staining his lips. "You're dead anyway, Harker. Caldwell's got 30 more men coming tomorrow, and dynamite, gonna blow your precious ranch to kingdom come." Logan stood, his face grim. "Patch him up," he told Kate. "We need him alive to testify later." Jacob approached, his shirt sleeve torn where a bullet had passed through the meat of his arm. "We can't hold against 30 men, Logan. Not here." "I know," Logan replied, his mind racing. "That's why we're not going to wait for them to come to us." The moon cast long shadows as Logan and Kate crept along the alley behind Caldwell's office in Medicine Falls. Most of the town slept, unaware of the battle that had raged at the Harker Ranch hours earlier. "You sure about this?" Kate whispered as Logan worked on the office's rear window with a thin knife blade. "If there's proof of the gold, it'll be in his safe," Logan replied, the lock giving way with a soft click. "With evidence, we can get the territorial marshal involved." They slipped inside, the darkness broken only by moonlight filtering through the curtains. Logan struck a match, its small flame illuminating the opulent office, a stark contrast to the frontier town surrounding it. Heavy oak furniture, oriental rugs, and a large wall safe behind the desk spoke of Caldwell's wealth and ambition. Kate kept watch at the window while Logan worked the safe's combination lock, his ear pressed to the cold metal, fingers moving with delicate precision. Years of adjusting rifle sights had given him a touch few would expect from his calloused hands. The safe surrendered with a satisfying click. Inside, Logan found what he was looking for: geological surveys, mining claims already drawn up in Caldwell's name, and most damning of all, a letter to Eastern investors promising gold reserves to rival the Comstock lode once the current occupant is removed. "Got it," Logan whispered, tucking the documents into his shirt. "Now let's—" The barrel of a revolver pressed against his temple, stopping him mid-sentence. "I always knew you were trouble." "Harker," Mayor Jenkins said, his voice trembling slightly despite his advantage. "But breaking and entering, that's a hanging offense." Logan remained perfectly still. "The only criminal here is Caldwell, Mayor. Read these papers. He's planning to steal my land for the gold underneath, not for any railway." "I know all about the gold," Jenkins replied, his voice hardening. "Why do you think I've supported him? Medicine Falls gets 20% of all mining profits. We'll be a real city, not just some dusty backwater." "And how many people have to die for your city, Jenkins?" Kate demanded from the window. "How much blood are you willing to spill?" The mayor's attention shifted to Kate for just a moment. But a moment was all Logan needed. His hand shot up, knocking the gun aside as it discharged, the bullet shattering a glass cabinet. In the next instant, Logan's fist connected with Jenkins' jaw, sending the portly mare crashing into a bookshelf. The gunshot's echo had barely faded when boots thundered on the boardwalk outside. Caldwell's men, responding to the alarm. "Out the back, now!" Logan ordered, grabbing the stunned mare and dragging him along. "You're coming with us, Jenkins. The territorial marshal will want to hear your confession." Dawn broke over Medicine Falls as a strange procession rode into town. Logan Harker at the front, blood seeping from a fresh bullet wound in his side, followed by Jacob Miller, Kate Reynolds, the Shoshone warriors, and a dozen townspeople who had rallied to their cause after learning the truth from Jenkins' own mouth. Waiting for them in the town square stood Victor Caldwell and 20 armed men, his final play for power and wealth. "It's over, Caldwell," Logan called out, his voice carrying across the tense silence. "Jenkins has confessed everything. The marshal is on his way from Cheyenne with a federal warrant." Caldwell's composed facade cracked for the first time, uncertainty flashing across his aristocratic features. "You're bluffing, Harker. No marshal could get here that quickly." "Maybe," Logan conceded, "but are you willing to risk hanging for the murder of American citizens on the slim chance I'm lying?" He held up the documents from the safe. "Either way, these prove your real intentions. No judge in Wyoming will support your claim now." For a long, tense moment, it seemed Caldwell might order his men to open fire. Logan could feel blood soaking his shirt, knew his strength was fading. If it came to a firefight now, he might not see the end of it. Then Pike stepped forward from Caldwell's men, his scarred face unreadable. "You didn't mention nothing about gold, Mr. Caldwell. Our deal was for land clearance, not murder for mining rights." He spat in the dust. "I don't mind killing, but I do mind being lied to." Like a dam breaking, the unity among Caldwell's forces collapsed. Several men lowered their weapons, backing away from what was quickly becoming a losing proposition. Caldwell, seeing his advantage evaporate, made one desperate play. He drew his own gilded revolver, aiming not at Logan, but at Kate. "I still have your precious valley, Harker. One way or another." The shot that rang out didn't come from Caldwell's weapon. Logan's Colt roared first, the bullet striking Caldwell's shoulder, spinning him around. The railway man's unfired gun clattered to the street as he fell to his knees, clutching his wound in shock and disbelief. "That's for threatening what's mine," Logan said quietly, holstering his smoking pistol. 2 months later, Logan stood on the ridge overlooking his valley. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the land, painting the grasslands in shades of gold and amber. His wound had healed, leaving yet another scar to join the collection on his weathered body. Below, cattle grazed peacefully. The ranch house stood solid against the backdrop of mountains. By the small family plot where Sarah and Thomas lay resting, fresh wildflowers had been planted. The sound of hoofbeats announced Kate's arrival. She dismounted, coming to stand beside him at the overlook. "The marshal delivered the news this morning," she said without preamble. "Caldwell's been sentenced to 15 years in territorial prison. Jenkins got 5. Logan nodded, satisfaction in the set of his jaw. "The railway's still coming," Kate continued, "but the new route skirts both our properties. They're breaking ground next month." "Good," Logan said simply. "The town needs it." They stood in comfortable silence watching the sun's descent toward the western peaks. No words of love passed between them. They weren't needed. What they shared was something forged in fire, tempered by struggle, strong as the land beneath their feet. "Heard there might be trouble coming," Kate said finally. "A gang moving up from Colorado. Robbed 3 banks already." Logan's hand rested on the worn grip of his Colt, his eyes scanning the valley that had almost been taken from him. "Let them come," he said quietly. "This land knows how to defend itself now." In the dying light, the last man of Medicine Falls Valley allowed himself a rare smile. Some battles were worth fighting, no matter the cost. Some legacies worth protecting. And as long as he drew breath, Logan Harker would stand as guardian of both. The West was still wild, still dangerous. But on this patch of earth, at least, justice had prevailed. For now.